this is a freewheeling discussion. Short, pithy answers for questions that I'll start with and then that will come from the audience. And please, if any of you feels that they would like to comment on what another person is saying, please signal so and come in. Next to each of you, you have a microphone, so you can speak into it on each side. And after the first part of the session, I will be asking you the questions, and during that time we will be collecting questions from the audience, which my colleagues here, Dr. Faham, Dr. Nakhla, and Dr. Suleiman, will be sorting these questions and then bringing them to us, and I will repose the questions to you because there are bound to be multiple questions, and this way we get maximum interaction. فجميع الحاضرين هنبدأ هذه الجلسة بحوار مفتوح مع السادة الضيوف الكبار، وسنبدأ الجلسة بأسئلة مني إليهم، وثم في هذه الفترة في ورق بتوزع عليكم جميعا، اللي عايز يكتب أي حاجة بالعربي ممكن، اللي عايز يكتبها بالإنجليزي ممكن، وهناخد كل الأوراق دي من الجمهور هتتجمع عند الدكتور فحام والدكتور صلاح سليمان والدكتور رفيق نخلة، وهم هيفرزوها عشان بيبقى في أسئلة مكررة كتير، وهيجمعوها وهيدوها لي وأنا هسألها للحاضرين. فمحمد فين محمد السماغ ومحمد علام؟ تأكدوا الورق بيتوزع، لو في ورق زيادة الورق يتوزع كله. علي جاد كله توزع ورق، لو في ورق إضافي أي حد عايز ورق يرفع إيده هيجيبوا له ورقة. جنبك في ناس بتوزع ورقة. Okay, we have an hour and 30 minutes, and we will start with a question that arises from the presentation of Richard Ernst this morning. It's an excellent presentation. You saw the reaction you got, but I would like to pose a question that troubles some scientists, and this is the social responsibility of science. Does it exist, or is science responsible to pursue truth based on empirical scientific method? That this is the primary function of the scientist. The scientist is also a citizen, where as a citizen he has a social responsibility, but as a scientist, is there a special social responsibility above the one of being also a good citizen?
Shall I answer?
Yes.
You see, I don't like to separate science from education. I think they belong very strongly together. I mean, whenever you are doing research, you are learning by yourself, and doing research is probably the best tool for in education. So I think the two belong very much together. And as soon as you couple them, it's very clear that scientists, or in other words, educators, they have a societal responsibility because they educate the future of mankind. And they educate the next generations who will determine the future of what is going on. So in this sense, I'm convinced that science and education have a lot of responsibility. And of course, when you are in your research lab and working on a particular chemical reaction, perhaps the societal context is not what comes to your mind at first. You would like to solve a particular problem, you see that problem, and you are working on it. But I mean, in the back of your mind, you have a filter, a selection filter, which filters out those questions which interest you particularly and those less. And when you have a societal responsibility built into yourself, your filter will work differently. And you will select different questions to work on, which you find that remotely they might have a societal importance, and other questions are perhaps of lesser importance. And in this sense, I'm sure that this kind of So societal mind will influence science quite a lot. Even if in the problem solving itself it will not have a great impact.
Well, thank you. Let me turn to Dr. Wiesel on this one, because I think you've handled that question also.
Yeah, I just thinking about the question. I had more time than my colleague here. It's clear that there have been times in history of science where the search for truth have led to the fact that you have understood the atom, structure of the atom and interaction, and this in terms have led to the creation of atomic energy, but it also led to the fact that powerful weapons have been developed on basis of this scientific truth and finding. So as a scientist, we have this issue of finding the truth. Sometimes, even if there is no way not to go on finding the truth, but still, this is what Professor Ernst referred to earlier today in his lecture, that the responsibility then often how this truth is handled falls often out of the hand of the scientists into the community, into the political arena, and then the scientist has done a service to some extent, but also perhaps a disservice. So this is a complication. I had the experience once that when I was at Harvard, I had a professorship, and one of the donors of this professorship asked me, Torsten, when are we going to be able to control the mind? So I looked at him somewhat horrified and said, never, I hope.
Yes.
But this is, again, these kind of questions, I assume you had in mind that we do have issues of this nature that will come up.
But aren't the issues really on the application or the technological application based on the scientific knowledge discovered? Because are we, or would you be arguing that because of nuclear weapons and because of the terrible fact that they were actually used and so on, would you say that scientists should have shied away from pursuing the secrets of the structure of the atom?
No, as I said, I don't. I mean, we as scientists we have to follow the path,
wherever it leads
us. But the responsibility of the rest of the community and that then will determine how this truth is handled.
Well, this is a slight variant on that, if I may go to Cherry Rowland and ask this question. And this is the extent to which there is a risk of the citizen, the scientist as a citizen versus scientist as scientist, to gradually become an advocate as opposed to someone who pursues the evidence and the truth wherever it leads them, even if the conclusions run counter to what they started with as their beliefs, how they evolve over time with it, or do they become a strong advocate? We have seen in the social sciences this happens.
I suppose Einstein is a beautiful example, as we heard today, of someone who became an advocate for peace. And
no, I didn't mean that. I meant Einstein never wavered in his scientific pursuits. He became an advocate as a citizen. In fact, Einstein is a very good example of someone doing science and then being an activist citizen.